138 MMA here to break down what is currently slated as our Week 9 Dana White Contender Series main event, Brunno Ferreira versus Leon Aliu. I probably butchered those names, bear with me. But for Brunno, we got 8-0. For Leon, we got 10-1. Okay, so first off, this is a matchup that, while breaking down the regional scene, the regional fights, I wasn't as impressed with these two guys as I was with some of the others on the card. I don't know if it was just because the competition wasn't quite great in most fights. I will say Leon did fight Chad Honeycomb, who, if you remember in my video about Aliaskarov, he gave him some trouble. So Aliaskarov was able to get the win. Leon Aliu was not. That is his one loss. Chad Honeycomb. Apparently that guy's way better than I thought he was. So, props to Aliaskarov for getting the win there. So Aliu does have the loss there. It's a tough fight. Honeycomb does have a good record, solid record for that regional scene. Fighting out of South Africa, you really never know. There's not a lot of... It's not a hotbed for MMA right now. Obviously, you got guys like Dracus du Plessis in the UFC, so you got that, but it's just not... You don't see a ton of fighters make the UFC from South Africa, so when you see a guy with a good record there, you never know what to expect. Chad Honeycomb seems to be legit. He did beat Leon Aliu here. So for me, that's not a bad loss. It was a step up in competition. He does have 10 other wins. For Brunno here, he seems to have fought the more experienced competition, but a lot of them were so-so. You get a lot of guys that were, maybe they have like 30 wins, but like 20 losses. That's not an exact or accurate number. That's just kind of a ballpark. There was a lot of guys that he beat that had a lot of fights, but they didn't. The ratio wasn't quite as appealing as you'd like. So for these two, the way I break it down, the striking matchup is very interesting because I do think Aliu has the better power. His power is crazy. The problem is his striking is really unorthodox, which can be good for him, but it could also be bad because sometimes he will he'll leave his hands way down, like as low as mine are right now. His hands are way down by his waist sometimes. Other times he'll pick them up, but they don't stay. They don't stay there. He's winging punches in loops. I even saw a video of him working mitts, working the pads, and he was winging these crazy wild punches. And you're kind of thinking to yourself when you're watching this, or at least I was, what are you doing? You're hitting pads, man. You don't have to be. Are you practicing for these wild punches? He is. I guess he is. So there is that. I guess at least if he's practicing, he must be able to throw them well. I don't know. Anyway. For him, on the other hand, he's a more technical striker, and his striking isn't bad. It doesn't have quite as much power as Aliu, I wouldn't say, but it is there. He'll land a lot more a crisper shot, drop you, and then finish you on the mat, or use that to set up his takedown as well, because he does have pretty solid takedowns. He didn't fight anybody that appeared to have really, really, really solid takedown defense. So for me, it could be lacking opponents there on the takedown defense. But I did like his takedowns. I did like his technical striking. Over here, I did like the power. Something that was the kind of the X factor for each of these guys. For Ferreira here, his ground and pound was really solid. And the reason I say that is because he used it to set up his submissions. When he would attempt the submission, he would go back to the ground and pound if he didn't get that locked in immediately. So being able to seamlessly transition between the two makes it hard, makes your opponent have to keep guessing on where you're going to be, what you're going to be searching for. So I did really like that out of Ferreira. On the other hand, I'm usually a non-guillotine fan, okay? So normally guys that are looking for guillotines, it's a very unsuccessful move. I will say that all the time. It is unsuccessful. It is statistically the least successful submission hold attempted in the UFC, but certain people are built for guillotines. And Leon Aliu here seems to have the right arm length and structure for a guillotine at the middleweight division. So for him, it seems to work. He's got most of his wins come by guillotine, or at least it's the highest percentage of finishes he has is guillotine finish over everything else. He does have like a rear naked choke, so he has choking arms. Let's put it that way. He's got them choking arms. They're longer and thinner in the forearm, which at middleweight, usually wouldn't expect somebody to be thinner in the forearms. He is a bulky, bigger dude, but the forearms are thin enough that you can get it under your chin, and that is why it works so well for the guillotine for him. It is tight. It is quick. It's pretty solid. Usually, like I said, I fade the guillotine because it's a low percentage move that a lot of people do as a desperation when they're getting taken down and they don't have another answer for it. They can't actually stop the takedown. For him, it seems to be a bit different. It's a strategic move. He does do it well. He does have a lot of finishes that way, albeit over not the best level of competition. So take that with the grain of salt, if you will. So for me, this fight is really close. Now, I do think Ferreira is the more well-rounded fighter. I don't know that he's well-rounded enough for me to say that he has a strong advantage here. The odds are not as close as you'd like to see. I would like to see this closer to pick him. I believe Ferreira is around minus 200, give or take. If from the betting perspective, you almost have to take the underdog here. I do think he's the better bet. I do think that knockout is there with that wild striking. As much as I hate it, and at the UFC level, it won't go well for him when you're keeping your hands by your waist. He's not skilled enough to say he can keep his hands at his waist and throw those punches and hit some of the top level guys at middleweight. Obviously, you got top tier guys. You've got Israel Adesanya. You got Robert Whittaker. Guys like that. They're gonna destroy a guy keeping his hands by his waist. So that makes sense. But in this matchup, I don't know so much that Ferreira is ready for the power that he delivers on one shot. So if he connects with one, it may lead to that knockout victory. So for me, if you're going to play this from a betting standpoint, you've got to play Aliu here. Unless you are mega confident in Ferreira. I'm not. I think he's probably the better fighter overall, but I don't think that always matters stylistically. Sometimes the better fighter loses, and that's just the way that it works sometimes. If you really want a good example of this, I know it's not MMA, it's going to be a kickboxing example. The Israel Adesanya Alex Pereira fight, when Pereira got the knockout, he was losing that fight the entire fight until he caught Adesanya, knocked him cold. So sometimes the guy who's the technically better striker, the technically better fighter, does not win the fight, and I think that's kind of what we're going to be looking at here. Ferreira probably wins this fight 7 out of 10 times, maybe 6 out of 10 times. Aliu is the one that I would say has the more finishing upside in the early part of the fight. As the fight drags on, Ferreira does seem to have a pretty decent gas tank for a big, bulky middleweight. He has there's not a lot of fights with these two that go really long, but for me, gosh, I hate to do it. Oh, man, I hate to go with the underdog here because I'm not confident in it whatsoever, and I don't want to stake my name on that. But if you're going to play this from a betting perspective, you have to look towards the underdog in this fight because the matchup is close and you're getting him as an underdog. I think he's gonna get it done. Got another Italian in the UFC possibly right now. Vittori might be the last of them after last week's card, or I guess Saturday's card. So for me, I'm gonna have to go ahead and say Aliu is the pick, but not confident whatsoever. I do see a world where Ferreira wins this. If he wins, I won't be surprised whatsoever. Don't come back to me saying that I told you to bet on this one, because I'm not. I would leave it off my card if I was you. And in fact, I have left it off my card. There are other fights on this card that I'm a little more confident in. This one is going to be fun for as long as it lasts, but like I said, it's not a fight that I'm confident in my pick. If you are mega confident in one of these guys, let me know. I think the level of competition is better here. I think the win percentage is obviously better here. He's undefeated. So, it could go either way. If you've seen something in your tape study that I didn't, if you did tape study, I don't know, maybe you're coming in here so you don't have to do the tape study and you're going to take my word on it. And if so, that's awesome. I appreciate it. I appreciate your confidence in me. But maybe check some of these out because, like I said, I'm not super confident in this one. The Cage Warriors fight that Aliu had is kind of what did seal the deal for me as far as why I will pick him. He did get a knockout pretty early on in that fight. Was a good win over a guy with a decent record, and it was in Cage Warriors, so it's a good promotion. They're not putting out a bunch of bums there. So like I said, for me, Aliu is the pick. Good fight, good matchup. Like this video. Don't forget to tell your friends if they're interested in Dana White Contender Series content to come check out the channel. And if you are interested in Dana White Contender Series content or UFC content in general, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Keep checking out the channel. We're going to have videos out every week that there is fights. Even if there are not fights, we might find a way to put out a video. We just did we're doing some collaborations with some other channels. Just did one with Art of MMA Analysis, so go ahead and check that one out on his channel. I was going to put a video here, but check it out on his channel. He needs the views for it rather than me because we did it on his channel. I feel like sending you over there is the right thing to do. So go check out his channel if you are looking at this and you haven't seen his channel. We did a video breaking down the Kenzie Dern Yan Xiaonan fight. So like I said, let me know what you think about this fight in the comments. Like it, subscribe it, tell your friends, tell your friends' friends, tell your family members, tell everybody you know. Don't tell everybody you know. Some people don't want to watch this stuff and then they're just gonna think this video is dumb. Tell everybody you know that might be interested in this, and I'll see you in the next video.